I raised my daughter for 20 years, until a DNA test exposed the darkest family secret. I never thought my life would turn into something worthy of a Reddit story. But here I am, sitting in my kitchen at 2 a.m., typing this out because I can't sleep. My hands are shaking, not from coffee, but from the weight of everything I've learned recently. For most of my adult life, I believed I was living a simple truth. I was a father. Not just any father, but a proud, loving one. I raised my daughter for over 15 years, dedicating every ounce of myself to her. She was my reason to wake up early, my reason to push through double shifts, my reason to dream bigger than my own limitations. Her name is Emily. From the very moment I held her in my arms, tiny and fragile, I swore that nothing would ever harm her as long as I breathed. She had my eyes, or at least, I thought she did. A soft brown with a spark that made me believe she'd change the world someday. She had her mother's smile, a mischievous grin that could melt even the coldest heart. Emily's mother, Sarah, and I weren't perfect. We had our share of fights, arguments over money, time, the future. But despite it all, I believed we shared one unbreakable bond, Emily. And that belief carried me through the darkest nights, the loneliest shifts, and the hardest sacrifices. I was 23 when Emily was born. Too young, maybe, too unprepared. But I embraced fatherhood like it was my calling. While my friends were out partying, I was learning how to swaddle, how to rock her to sleep, how to recognize the difference between a hungry cry and a tired one. I gave up opportunities, promotions, and even friendships because Emily came first, and I never once regretted it. Fast forward to when Emily turned 15. She was blossoming into her own person, smart, opinionated, stubborn in ways that made me both proud and frustrated. We had our disagreements, of course. She thought I was too strict. I thought she was too naive. But at the core of it, I always believed we understood each other. Then, one evening, everything changed. It started with a message, out of the blue, on Facebook of all places. A woman I hadn't spoken to in nearly 2 decades reached out. Her name was Jessica. She used to be Sarah's closest friend back in college, but after Emily was born, she moved away, and we lost touch. Her message was short, almost cryptic. I think you need to know the truth about Emily. Call me. At first, I laughed it off. Spam, maybe, or some strange attempt to stir up drama. But something about the tone unsettled me. Against my better judgment, I called her the next day. Jessica didn't waste time with pleasantries. The first words out of her mouth were, "She's not your daughter." I froze. I remember my mouth going dry, my heart slamming against my ribs so hard it hurt. "What the hell are you talking about?" I demanded. Jessica sighed. "I never wanted to get involved, but I can't keep quiet anymore. Sarah wasn't faithful to you back then. Emily, she's not biologically yours. I know who her real father is." The room spun. I could barely process what I was hearing. My first instinct was anger at Jessica for bringing this up after so many years, at Sarah for reasons I couldn't even articulate, and at myself for even entertaining the thought. "That's impossible," I said. "I was there. I raised her. She's mine." But Jessica insisted. She claimed Sarah had confided in her back then, admitted to an affair, and confessed the truth in a moment of guilt. Jessica even offered to show me old messages, emails, proof. I hung up on her. I didn't want to believe it. I couldn't, but the seed was planted, and once it was there, I couldn't stop it from growing. That night, I sat across from Emily at dinner, watching her laugh about some story from school. I stared at her face, her expressions, the little quirks I thought she got from me. For the first time, doubt crept in. What if those weren't my quirks at all? What if none of it was mine? Sleep became impossible. I'd wake up at 3 a.m., pacing the living room, replaying Jessica's words. Finally, after a week of torment, I confronted Sarah. Her reaction told me everything before she even spoke. Her eyes widened, her face drained of color, and then she broke down in tears. She tried to deny it at first, but when I pressed her, when I demanded the truth, she admitted it. Yes, she had an affair. Yes, there was a chance Emily wasn't mine. My world collapsed in that moment. 15 years of certainty, love, devotion, all shattered by a few words. But the story doesn't end there, because what came after was even worse, and far more complicated than I ever could have imagined. The days after Sarah's confession were some of the darkest I've ever lived through. I felt like a ghost drifting through my own house, my own life. I kept staring at Emily's childhood photos, her first steps, her first day of kindergarten, the birthday parties I worked overtime to afford. Every memory felt poisoned now, tainted by the possibility that I had been living a lie. But at the same time, I couldn't bring myself to believe it fully. When Emily smiled at me, when she called me dad, I still felt the bond. It was real. No DNA test could erase the years of scraped knees, I bandaged, or the sleepless nights I spent rocking her to sleep. And yet, I needed to know. Sarah resisted at first. She begged me to drop it, to let the past stay buried. She insisted it didn't matter, that I was Emily's father in every way that counted. But I couldn't live with the uncertainty. It was eating me alive. So I ordered a DNA test, the kind you can do at home with a cheek swab and a prepaid envelope. I told myself it was just to put my mind at ease. Deep down, though, I already knew the truth. The 2 weeks I waited for the results felt like an eternity. I tried to act normal around Emily, but I know I failed. She noticed my distance, the way my smile didn't quite reach my eyes. She asked if something was wrong, and I lied. I told her I was stressed about work. When the envelope finally arrived, my hands shook so badly I could barely open it. My stomach churned as I unfolded the paper. And there it was. Cold, clinical, undeniable. Probability of paternity, 0%. I stared at the numbers until the words blurred. I don't remember how long I sat there, numb, unable to breathe. My world didn't just crack, it disintegrated. Everything I believed about myself, about my family, about my life, was gone in an instant. I wasn't her father, not by blood. When Sarah came home that night, I showed her the results. She broke down again, sobbing, begging me not to tell Emily. She swore she never wanted me to find out. She claimed she kept the secret because she knew I was a better father than the man who had actually fathered her. And that's when I asked the question that had been haunting me since the beginning. Who is he? Sarah hesitated, then whispered a name I hadn't heard in years, Michael. Michael had been a co-worker of Sarah's back then, someone she swore was just a friend. I remembered him charming, confident, the kind of guy who always seemed to be the center of attention. I hated him back then, though I never had concrete proof of why. Turns out my instincts weren't wrong. I felt rage boiling inside me. Rage at Sarah, at Michael, at myself. But beneath all that was something worse. Fear. Fear of losing Emily. Because despite everything, despite the test results, she was still my daughter in my heart. I couldn't imagine life without her. I couldn't imagine her looking at me with hatred in her eyes, rejecting me, calling someone else dad. But secrets have a way of surfacing, and mine was about to explode. It happened 2 weeks later. I thought I had hidden the test results well, buried them under stacks of paperwork in my desk. But Emily had been looking for a charger, rummaging through drawers, and she found the envelope. I'll never forget the sound of her voice that night, shaky, terrified, as she stood in the doorway of the living room holding the paper in her trembling hands. Dad, what is this? My blood turned to ice. I tried to speak, to explain, but the words stuck in my throat. Emily's eyes darted between me and the paper, tears welling up. Is this some kind of mistake? She whispered. I wanted to lie. God, I wanted to protect her from the truth. But looking at her, my little girl, who had trusted me all her life, I couldn't. So I told her. I told her everything. She broke. Right in front of me, she crumbled. She screamed at me, at Sarah, at the universe. She accused me of lying to her, of building her entire childhood on a foundation of deception. You're not my father, she spat. And those words cut deeper than any blade ever could. She locked herself in her room for hours. I sat outside the door, begging her to let me explain, but she didn't answer. When she finally emerged, her eyes were red and swollen, her face pale. She wouldn't look at me. She packed a bag, said she was staying with a friend, and walked out the door. And just like that, she was gone. That night, I sat alone in the kitchen, staring at the empty chair across from me. The silence was suffocating. I'd spent years building a life around being her father, and in a single evening, it all came crashing down. But what I didn't know then was that this was only the beginning. The truth about Emily's real father and the lies Sarah had told was far more twisted than I ever imagined. And soon, everything would spiral out of control. The night Emily walked out felt like a death. I sat in her empty room, surrounded by posters of her favorite bands, shelves stacked with books I had bought her, little trinkets she had collected since childhood. Every object was a reminder of the life I had poured myself into, a life that now felt like it had slipped through my fingers. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. My mind kept replaying her words. You're not my father. They echoed in my skull like a curse. The next morning, I called her, texted her, begged her to talk to me. No response. I drove to her friend's house, but her friend's parents politely told me Emily wasn't there. I knew she was lying, but I couldn't force my way in. So I went home, defeated. Sarah, meanwhile, seemed to collapse under the weight of it all. She admitted she had been terrified of this day for years, terrified of losing everything once the truth surfaced. She kept saying she was sorry, that she never meant for it to come to this. But her apologies meant nothing to me anymore. All I wanted were answers. So I did something I probably shouldn't have. I looked for Michael. It wasn't hard. A quick search online, a few messages, and suddenly his profile was staring back at me. He hadn't aged well. His once confident smile looked forced now. His hairline retreating, his career mediocre at best. I scrolled through pictures of him with his wife and kids, and bile rose in my throat. Did they know? Did he know? That question kept me up. Did Michael know he had a daughter out there? I had to find out. I messaged him. Just one simple line. We need to talk. It's about Emily. He responded within an hour. His reply was short, almost cautious. Who is this? I gave him my name. There was a pause, nearly 30 minutes of silence before his next message arrived. Meet me tomorrow, alone. The address he sent was a coffee shop across town. When I walked in the next day, Michael was already there, sitting at a corner table with a cup of black coffee. He looked smaller in person than I remembered, diminished somehow. But when his eyes met mine, I saw a flicker of recognition and something else. Guilt. We shook hands stiffly and sat down. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then Michael leaned forward. I know why you're here, he said quietly. My heart pounded. Then you know she's yours? He nodded slowly. Sarah told me years ago, but she swore she'd never tell. Emily. She said you were a better man than I'd ever be. She begged me to stay out of her life. I clenched my fist under the table. Rage coursed through me. And you agreed. You just let me raise your child while you lived your life in peace. Michael flinched but didn't argue. I thought it was best. For everyone. I had my own family. Emily was happy. You were doing a good job. I didn't want to destroy that. His words hit me like a slap. He didn't want to destroy it. What about me? What about the years of sacrifice, the sleepless nights, the endless struggles? I wanted to scream at him, to punch him across the table, but I held myself back. Instead, I asked the only question that mattered. What happens now? Michael looked down at his coffee. That's up to Emily. If she wants to know me, I'll be there, but I won't force it. I left the cafe in a daze. The idea of Emily meeting him, choosing him over me, tore me apart. But the truth was out now, and there was no controlling where it would lead. The following week was hell. Emily refused to come home. She ignored my calls, avoided Sarah entirely. Then, one evening, I got a text from her. I met him. My stomach dropped. When she finally came by the house 2 days later, she looked different, colder, harder. She told me she had met Michael, that he seemed nice, and that she wanted to get to know him better. I tried to stay calm, but my voice cracked as I asked, so what about me? She hesitated, then whispered, I don't know. It felt like my heart was being ripped out of my chest. In the weeks that followed, Emily grew more distant. She spent weekends with Michael, introduced herself to his family, even met his kids. I felt myself being erased from her life, replaced piece by the man who had abandoned her before she was even born. But then, something strange happened. Late one night, I got a call from Emily. Her voice was shaky, panicked. Dad, she whispered, and hearing that word again made my heart ache. Something's wrong. I sat up in bed, adrenaline surging. What happened? Are you okay? She hesitated before saying, Michael, he's not who he seems. And just like that, the story took a turn I never could have anticipated. When Emily called me that night, using the word dad again after weeks of cold silence, I felt both relief and terror. Relief that she still reached out to me. Terror because of the fear in her voice. Her whisper cut through the line, Michael, he's not who he seems. I bolted upright in bed, my heart hammering. Emily, what do you mean? Where are you? I'm at his house. I stayed over because he wanted me to meet his wife and kids. But something's wrong. He said things tonight that freaked me out. I don't know what to do. I could hear her breathing fast, shaky. My instincts kicked in. Stay calm. Stay where you are. I'm coming to get you. She hesitated. No, don't. He'll know I called you. Just listen first. I gripped the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. Okay, tell me. Emily lowered her voice. He said Mom blackmailed him, that she threatened to ruin his life if he ever told me the truth. And then he said, he owes her, that everything I thought I knew was a lie. Her words twisted in my gut like a knife. What does he mean by owes her? I don't know, Emily whispered. But when I asked him, his face changed. He said he'd explain soon, when the time is right. Then he told me not to trust anyone, not even you. I felt ice crawl up my spine. Emily, you need to leave. Now, get your things and walk out the front door. I'll be there in 10 minutes. But before she could respond, the line went dead. I drove like a madman through the empty streets. Every red light an enemy. Every second an eternity. When I pulled up outside Michael's house, the lights were off. The place looked too quiet. I pounded on the door, shouting Emily's name. but no one answered. Finally, the door opened, not Emily, but Michael. He stood there in a wrinkled shirt, eyes bloodshot, as if he hadn't slept in days. "You need to leave," he said calmly, almost too calmly. "Where's Emily?" I barked. "She's asleep. Safe. Go home." "Like hell I will." I tried to push past him, but he blocked the doorway. His face hardened. "You don't get it, do you?" he hissed. "She deserves to know the truth. All of it. And you've been standing in the way for too long." My blood ran cold. "What truth?" Michael's eyes darted past me, scanning the street, then back to my face. "This isn't the place. But soon. She know everything Sarah hid. Everything you were too blind to see." He shut the door in my face. I stood there, fists trembling, the urge to break the door down almost overwhelming. But I couldn't risk making things worse for Emily. I backed away, seething, and drove home with a storm in my chest. The next day, Emily came back. She looked pale, shaken, but unharmed. She barely spoke, retreating to her room. When I pressed her, she snapped. "Just give me space." I wanted to respect her wishes, but I couldn't stop worrying. What had Michael told her? What hold did he have over her? And what the hell did Sarah have to do with all this? That evening, when Sarah got home, I confronted her. "What's going on between you and Michael? What did you do?" She froze, her face draining of color. For a moment, I thought she might deny everything. But then her shoulders sagged, and she whispered. I was desperate. My chest tightened. Desperate for what? Tears welled in her eyes. When Emily was born, I knew Michael wouldn't step up. He was married already, climbing his career ladder. I couldn't raise a child alone, so I begged him for help, money, anything. He refused, so I threatened him. I told him I'd ruin his marriage, his reputation, if he didn't support us. I stared at her in disbelief. You blackmailed him? She nodded, sobbing. At first, he paid. Then he started demanding things in return. Favors, lies. I thought I could keep it hidden. Thought you'd never find out. But he never let go. Even after I cut ties, he found ways to remind me that I owed him. That Emily tied us together forever. I felt sick. The betrayal ran deeper than I imagined. Sarah hadn't just cheated, she had built our entire life on a foundation of manipulation and threats. But one thing didn't add up. Why now? Why is he suddenly trying to get close to Emily? Sarah's voice dropped to a whisper. Because his life is falling apart. His wife is leaving him. His kids barely speak to him. He wants Emily to fill the void. The thought made me want to put my fist through a wall. He wanted to use our daughter, as some kind of replacement, a pawn in his pathetic life. And worst of all, Emily didn't know any of this. The following week was a blur of tension. Emily kept meeting Michael despite my protest. Each time she came home, she seemed more conflicted, torn between curiosity and fear. She wouldn't tell me everything he said, only that he had answers I couldn't give. I felt powerless, watching her slip further from me. But then, one night, she came into the kitchen while I was washing dishes. Dad, she said softly. I turned, surprised. It had been weeks since she'd used that word without venom. I don't know what to believe anymore, she whispered. Michael says Mom ruined his life. He says you only raised me because she tricked you. But when I think about everything you did for me, everything you gave up, I don't understand how any of that could be fake. I dried my hands, fighting back tears. It wasn't fake. None of it. I don't care what blood says, Emily. You're my daughter. You always will be. She looked at me for a long moment, eyes shimmering, then nodded slightly. But before either of us could say more, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it and frowned. It's him. He wants to meet tomorrow. He says he's going to tell me the full truth, everything. I clenched my jaw. You're not going alone. Emily hesitated, then whispered. Good. Because I don't think I trust him anymore. The next day, we went together. The meeting place was strange. Not a cafe, not a house, but an abandoned warehouse on the edge of town. The kind of place where secrets rot in the shadows. When we arrived, Michael was already inside, pacing like a man haunted. His eyes lit up when he saw Emily. But when he noticed me at her side, his face darkened. This was supposed to be private, he hissed. Emily crossed her arms. No more secrets. Tell us everything. And that's when Michael revealed the truth, one that shattered everything I thought I knew and dragged us into a nightmare I wasn't prepared for. The warehouse smelled of rust and dust, the kind of place where whispers felt heavier than shouts. Emily stood beside me, her arms crossed, her chin trembling as if she were bracing herself for a storm. Michael paced in front of us like a caged animal. His eyes flicked toward Emily with a strange mix of guilt and longing, then toward me with undisguised contempt. You want the truth? He spat. Fine. You'll get it. Emily's voice was steady, though I could hear the fear beneath it. Start talking. Michael dragged a hand down his face, as though pulling words out of his skin. When Sarah got pregnant, I panicked. I was married, building my career, living the perfect lie. I begged her to get rid of it. She refused. She said she'd tell everyone unless I gave her money. And she was right, I caved. I paid her. I thought that would be enough. He laughed bitterly. But it wasn't. She kept coming back, threatening, demanding more. Every time I tried to walk away, she tightened the noose, until I couldn't breathe anymore. Emily's eyes widened. So, you're saying Mom blackmailed you into silence? Michael's jaw clenched. Yes. And while you were growing up thinking he pointed at me with venom, was your father. I was living in hell, trapped, watching from the shadows. I stepped forward, anger flaring. Don't twist this. You abandoned her. You left me to raise her while you played victim. You didn't lift a finger to be a father. Michael's face contorted with rage. I didn't lift a finger because I couldn't. I was shackled by your saint of a wife. And now, after all these years, she's poisoned you both against me. Emily deserves to know the real me, not the version Sarah invented. Emily shook her head, tears streaking down her cheeks. The real you? You weren't there when I had nightmares as a kid. You weren't there when I broke my arm, or when I cried over my first breakup. You weren't there for anything. He was. Her voice cracked, and she pointed at me. Michael's expression faltered, his bravado crumbling. For a moment, silence filled the warehouse, broken only by the sound of dripping water. Then he muttered, almost pleading, "But I'm your father. By blood." Emily stared at him with a mixture of pity and disgust. Blood doesn't make a father. Actions do. My throat tightened. For weeks, I'd feared those words would never come. And now, hearing them from her lips, I felt both vindicated and heartbroken. Michael's face twisted into something ugly. You'll regret this. Both of you. You think you know the truth. But Sarah hasn't told you everything. I stiffened. What the hell are you talking about now? He let out a low, bitter laugh. Sarah didn't just blackmail me for money. She lied to you, too. Lied about how this all started. She told you it was just an affair, didn't she? Just one mistake. Emily's breathing quickened. What are you saying? Michael stepped closer, lowering his voice. She planned it. She wanted leverage over me. That's why she kept you, Emily. Not out of love, out of strategy. Emily gasped, her knees buckling slightly. I caught her before she fell. No. I whispered, shaking my head. That's not true. Michael smirked. Isn't it? Ask her yourself. Ask Sarah what she really wanted all those years ago. You'll see. Emily buried her face in my chest, sobbing. I glared at Michael, rage coursing through me. Stay away from her. If you come near her again, I swear. He raised his hands mockingly. Or what? You'll finally admit you're nothing but a stand-in? A placeholder? I clenched my fist, every muscle screaming to put him down. But Emily's hand on my arm stopped me. Let's go, Dad, she whispered. And just like that, the decision was made. We walked out of that warehouse together, leaving Michael in the shadows he had created. His shouts echoed behind us, but they grew fainter with every step we took. The following days were chaos. Emily confronted Sarah, demanding answers. Sarah broke down, admitting to the blackmail, admitting to the lies, but denying that she ever saw Emily as leverage. She swore she loved her daughter, that every decision, wrong as it was, came from desperation, not malice. But the damage was done. Emily couldn't look at her mother the same way anymore. Their bond fractured, maybe beyond repair. She spent most of her time with me, silent but present, as though clinging to the one constant left in her life. I didn't push her. I didn't fill the silence with empty words. I just stayed by her side, the way I always had. One night, weeks later, she came into the living room while I was dozing on the couch. She sat beside me, curling up like she used to when she was a little girl. Dad, she whispered. I blinked awake. Yeah? She looked at me with tearful eyes but a steady voice. Thank you for never giving up on me, for being here when everything else fell apart. I pulled her into my arms, my own tears spilling over. Always, Emily. Always. As for Michael, he tried to contact her a few more times, but Emily ignored him. Eventually, he faded back into his crumbling life. I didn't care what became of him. He had already done enough damage. Sarah and I, we didn't survive. Too many lies, too much betrayal. We separated quietly, without a fight. Our only connection now is Emily, and even that is strained. But Emily and I, we're still here. Bruised, broken in places, but together. I know the scars will never fully heal. The truth we uncovered destroyed the family I thought I had. But it also revealed something unshakable. The bond between Emily and me. A bond not forged in blood, but in love, sacrifice, and years of standing by each other. I may not be her biological father, but I am her dad. And nothing, no test, no betrayal, no secret will ever change that.